Today we're going to start this video off with a drive through downtown Nashville, Tennessee on our way to the cemetery. And you can see there's a crane there at the right, but there's cranes all over Nashville. It really is a growing town. But the growing I want to talk about today is about a man that helped many a country music star in their growth in the country music field, and that is of Ralph Emery. As we continue on through our drive headed toward Harpeth Hills Memory Gardens in Nashville, Tennessee, to visit Ralph's gravesite, I'd like to mention a few things about Ralph Emery. Ralph was born with the name of Walter Ralph Emery in the small town of McEwen, Tennessee. And speaking of McEwen, Tennessee, the population in 2023 was estimated to be just a little over 1,700. Another fact about McEwen, Tennessee is that it is located somewhere between 50 to 60 miles out of Nashville. So Ralph never ended up being very far from his humble beginnings. As a teenager, one of the jobs Ralph Emery had was being an usher in a movie theater in downtown Nashville. But after that, he would end up working as a stock boy at Kroger's, and it said that he saved his money while working there, and he did this so he could enroll in the Tennessee School of Broadcasting. Ralph Emery is probably best known as a television host, but he did a lot of things. He started out as a disc jockey and for radio stations, and then he also would sing just a little bit, and he's also known for writing books, several of them in fact, and I'll go into that a little bit more when we get to the cemetery. So now to the cemetery. As I mentioned earlier, Ralph Emery is buried at Harpeth Hills Memory Gardens in Nashville, Tennessee. But I want to mention that he's buried in the section of the cemetery that's called the Fountain, and you can just get a small glimpse of the fountain there. And there's several, if you come down the walkway, there's several benches there. There's one that, of course, has Atkins, and that's in regards to Chet Atkins. And but Ralph is buried almost directly across from the bench that has the given name Wolf on it. So let's take a closer look at Ralph's grave for a minute. As I mentioned earlier, Ralph started out as a disc jockey, and his very first job after getting out of the Tennessee School of Broadcasting was with a small radio station in the town of Paris. Not Paris, France, but Paris, Tennessee. After his job in Paris, Tennessee, Ralph would have a few other small-time disc jockey jobs in between, but his big break came when he got his very first full-time job in 1953 with WSIX, which was affiliated with ABC. That radio station being affiliated with the television ABC channel helped Ralph in 1954 get his first television experience, which was WSIX TV, it was called, as an announcer, but not for country music as you might think, but he did it for live studio wrestling. Ralph Emery would then go to work even for a little while in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but I think his heart was always in Nashville, and he would come back to Nashville, but not as you would expect as a country music disc jockey, but he ended up coming to work on a rock and roll station. Country music fans are well blessed that Ralph Emery would get out of the rock and roll broadcasting and all and switch back over to country music, whether it be in television shows or whether it be as a disc jockey, and he would do country music stuff for the rest of his life. Ralph Emery, at the age of 24 in 1957, would join the graveyard shift, they called it, at WSM Radio, which was the station that broadcast the Grand Ole Opry, and he would work there until 1972, and he would interview stars sometimes as they would drop by or play music for him and all, and these would include people such as like Merle Haggard, Loretta Lynn, Willie Nelson, and Marty Robbins. And of course, Marty Robbins was known to drop by a lot radio stations and television shows, and even the Grand Ole Opry. He popped in unexpectedly one time when I was at the Grand Ole Opry, and made an appearance and did a little song for. So that's my Marty Robbins story I have to tell. But back to the man we're discussing today, Ralph Emery. Now I'm going to mention just a little bit about Ralph Emery's personal life. He was married 3 times. His second wife was that of Skeeter Davis, who was a country music singer, probably best known for the song The End of the World. But his third wife, which if you've noticed on his marker, she is still living at the time of this video, was that of Joy Cott. I think it's the way she pronounces it, K-O-T-T, or it may be Ott, the K may be silent. But anyway, Joy and Ralph had 54 years of marriage until his passing. Joy and Ralph would also have 3 sons, and their names were Steve, Michael, and Kit. And from the fountain, I'm going to give you a look at part of the cemetery. It is a very large cemetery, and there is the actual funeral home, and this will help you with the location where Ralph's grave is located. You come straight up from the funeral home, and you'll see a giant white cross over there, and a walkway on that side of the road. But Ralph is buried on this side of the road, and as I said, you come up and you'll just go to like the first bench, and straight across from that you'll find Ralph Emery's grave. I mentioned earlier that I was going to talk a little bit more about some of Ralph Emery's shows, and he did have several television shows. Some of these names you may remember of the shows, and some of them you may not. But one of the first ones was called 16th Avenue South, which was a television show that got its name because there was a 16th Avenue on Music Road here in Nashville, Tennessee. He also had a show that he hosted weekly that was called Pop Goes the Country. Another one, and I don't remember it being called by its original name, which was Opry Almanac, but it was later changed its name to the Ralph Emery Show, and I remember it being called by that name. Another one was Ralph Emery Live, and that show, it said also had a name change to the Ralph Emery's Memories. And the most popular show that I remember, and maybe you do too, is the one called Nashville Now. And it was a very unusual show because Ralph Emery had a co-host with it, and that co-host was a puppet. The puppet's name was Shotgun Red. The puppeteer and the voice of Shotgun Red was done by a man called Steve Hall. Ralph Emery's shows would help the growth of country music, the music itself, but not only that, it helped the growth of those country music stars. Those especially starting out in the country music field would really love being on Ralph Emery's shows. He made them feel relaxed and all, but it also would help boost their careers. But not only just the stars starting out, it would also help legends that promote maybe a new record they have out or something. So Ralph Emery played a very big part in the country music world. I had just visited Chet Atkins' grave, which is like a couple rows up from Ralph Emery, when I thought I'd need to come back and say a little bit more about Ralph Emery. And that is that he was inducted into the Country Music Disc Jockey Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame, and the National Radio Hall of Fame. As we take a final look at the fountain near Ralph's gravesite, I will mention that when Ralph passed away at the age of 88, he got many things said about him by many country music stars, and one in particular I'd like to mention is that by Ronnie Millsap. He said, "I lost a good friend. He was a radio guy. I love you, Ralph Emery, and you were always so good to me. Before I came to Nashville, I heard that if Ralph Emery liked you and Farron Young liked you, you would make it in Nashville." Speaking of Nashville, I'm going to give you a different view on my way home. As you can see, there's a lot of fencing around this area, and this is showing that the Vanderbilt University Medical Center is really making a lot of changes and adding a lot of growth to the medical center itself. Well, I'm going to close out this video with saying I thank you so very much for watching the video today, and hope you'll give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to. I really do appreciate all the views and the comments that I get on my videos. And as always, I hope you have a good day.